Now, to the other thing that is going to be a dominant topic for the next little while. Death, taxes, net zero by 2050. It feels like everyone in a position to decide things for us has decided that is the way things should be and the way things will be, whether we like it or not. And the Prime Minister has made it very obvious that that is where he is going to land. Now, whether he does it via a formal swearing of an oath in Glasgow, the signing of a piece of paper in Canberra, the passing of a piece of legislation, or an aspirational target, who knows? But his language is very clear.
My government is committed to ensuring that rural and regional Australia transitions to this new energy economy in the future stronger, with their jobs and their communities intact, and they can look forward with confidence and they can plan for the future with confidence. We've got to come together on this issue. My government will come together on this issue. The country will come together on this issue.
And as for the Labor Party, they too are all about net zero 2050. So put simply, death, taxes, net zero 2050. Whether you like it or not, everyone in a position to form government, that's their policy.
What we'll do is we'll put out all of our framework after Glasgow. I've said that consistently. I haven't chopped and changed Labor's view. Upon becoming leader, one of the first announcements that I made was for net zero emissions by 2050. And what we've consistently said is that the climate crisis is Australia's job opportunity, that we can be a renewable energy superpower for the world. But in order to do that, it requires government leadership.
And you know it's really serious because this is industrial stuff behind me. Anyway, he's also promised that he will legislate that target. But either way, death, taxes, net zero 2050 seems to be the way it's going to go. Now, let's be nice and clear for everyone who's listening right now. Just because that is the inevitability of where the government is going does not mean we cannot talk about the issue that has been the central problem for Australians for the past 10 years. Cost of transition. I repeat, cost of transition. And then there is the small problem that, of course, China can do whatever the hell it wants till 2030 for another 9 years. They can increase, double, treble, quadruple every year, and they only get marked on where they are in 2030. They produce way more than us. In fact, in just 16 days, they will produce what we do in an entire year. So put simply, sure, should Australia pull its horns in? Yeah, probably. Is there an obvious consequence of 8 billion people on the planet? Multiple industrial revolutions? You bet. I'm not pretending this doesn't exist, but I am realistic that in a world of 8 billion people, we are but an island of 25 million people. And even countries that are way bigger than us, well, they're saying this.
When almost 90% of all of the planet's emissions, global emissions, come from outside of U.S. borders. We could go to zero tomorrow, and the problem isn't solved.
I'm sorry? We could go to zero tomorrow and it won't be enough. So when he talks about the 90% outside their borders, China, which of course gets to be a developing country, despite the fact that it's got billionaires, glittering cities, they can host winter and summer Olympic Games, but because they keep a certain amount of people either in poverty or in re-education camps, they're a developing country. So they're let off the hook till 2030. Now again, this does not mean that I'm going to scream at the people who are advocating for this change. The joy of the company that I work for, that I love working for, is that two people who really like each other can really disagree, and they can do so in the pages of the paper or on the airwaves. I love that. But also worth noting here too is that there's an issue that Australians have never been able to solve. And the lefties leave this out all the time. Cost of transition. What are you willing to pay when it comes for net zero? Now, the headlines will tell you that a clear majority of Australians want net zero by 2050. And I have no doubt when asked, that's what they think. Because when you are asked, should we take care of the planet? Everyone says, yeah, of course we should. Are you willing to pay for it? Well, maybe not. Take just one example, right? In South Australia, where they all are all in on renewable power, that also showed that people were only willing to spend $100 more than they currently do to help pay to change the climate. That's not going to be enough. And if the idea is that if you sign up to net zero or legislate net zero, then somehow you'll keep all of your critics happy, can I introduce you to a young, angry Sheila from Europe?
Then we must forget about net zero. We need real zero. Because distant net zero emission targets will mean absolutely nothing if we just continue to ignore the carbon dioxide budget that applies for today, not distant future dates.
So even if we agreed to something that even John Kerry says wouldn't be enough, on an island of 25 million people in a world of 8 billion people, of which 1 billion people live in a country that can do whatever it wants till 2030, we might have a slight problem here. So again, death, taxes, net zero 2050. I get it. But there are people who are going to make a lot of money when any government decides that's going to be the policy. You can't divorce their advocacy from their financial interest. In the same way you would say it about a coal company or a fuel company or any other big company that they talk about in the past. That's the truth about what we face in the next little while. So my argument is about cost of transition. My argument is about, we have signed something with Paris. Surely we just honour that commitment to 2030 and then there's the conversation about 30 to 50. Because if we assume that it's 2050, the bureaucracy will treat it like it is December 2049. So we'll see whether this lands. But I repeat, you can disagree in this company. You can do so publicly because there is not one voice. And that is exactly how the real world actually is. Now, meantime, in the supporting movement today, Dr. Alan Finkel was asked a whole bunch of questions before he's, I think, going to do something on Facebook tomorrow with the Daily Telegraph, our mate Joe Hildebrand. And he was asked a couple of questions. Does this answer any question, though, about cost of transition? About existing jobs? Local, state and national governments are aware of the difficulties faced by individual workers and will work with industry to develop new job opportunities. What does that mean to somebody who's in their 40s or their 50s? Oh, when it comes to your power bills, by the way, if the shift to renewable energy is managed thoughtfully, then to the contrary. Electricity bills should be low because they will take advantage of the falling price of solar and wind electricity. Now, this is one of the little tricks that they use. They pretend that it doesn't cost a cent to build a solar panel, let alone install one. That wind farms grow, they are not poured with concrete, sourced from China. The whole point is it will cost billions of dollars to build what is necessary. And if anyone goes to the federal election saying, you know what, I'm going to be straight up here. It's going to cost $100 billion, but I promise you on the other side of that, here are the benefits. Just say it up front. But nobody will. But there's a little report I wanted to show you. It's from the CSIRO. A CSIRO report that showed for the electricity industry to move to net zero, for us to move to full renewable energy, that will cost, and I'm reading directly from the report and the introduction to the report alone, Australia's electricity system would require expenditure of almost $1,000 billion. I'll put that in terms everyone else gets. $1 trillion by the current service providers, new entrants and customers by 2050. So finally, may I talk about the ACT? The ACT that proudly beats its chest to say, we are 100% renewable energy. Sure, it only produces about 10, 15% of the actual electricity. The rest of it is provided from an extension cord into New South Wales. 100% renewable energy, yes. Gold star from the Ghost. Well, guess what's happened to the electricity price since they announced 100% renewable energy in Canberra? The price has gone up. Oh, and apparently COVID and the lockdown in COVID will be a reason for it to go up again.